Good morning and welcome to Michigan Farm and Garden. I'm Jody Powell-Newsom and I'm your host. We have a great show lined up for you this morning. This morning we're going to talk to you about bio-based products. We're also going to give you an update on dry beans, and we're also going to talk about what's available at farm markets. Stay tuned. Good morning, and again, welcome to Michigan Farm and Garden, and thank you to all you folks who stopped at Ag Expo. The next weekend or so, we will be bringing you shows that we shot during Ag Expo. Hopefully you enjoyed it and had as much fun as we did. On the show this morning, we have some great topics to talk to you about, give you some updates. My first guest this morning is Keith Reinhold. He's from the Michigan Soybean Promotion Committee, and we are going to talk a little bit, certainly, about bio. You know, we've had Keith on before, and we talk about the opportunities, and we know there are so many opportunities when we look at the crops in our state. Certainly when we look at soybeans, a lot of opportunities for the future, a lot of opportunities for other uses, and bio is certainly one of those areas that's getting a lot of attention and a big push to see what we can do and how we can help grow our economy through some of those bio products. So we're going to talk a little bit more about that this morning. Then I also have back with me Bob Green. He is from the Michigan Bean Commission, and we are going to talk a little bit about the bean crop. You know, from past shows we've talked a little bit about it, and when we look at Michigan, certainly a major crop here in our state, a lot of potential, and certainly really big when we look at export opportunities. Then I am very glad to have back again this morning Dan Hill. He is with Montrose Orchards, and we are going to talk a little bit about the crops. Certainly from that farm market orchard perspective, we know the weather has been really tough this year, so we're going to talk a little bit about what's out there, what's available, what you can expect as far as the season. And then he has some great hints and ideas of things that you can do, how we can try to make that crop last longer. And he will be back with the recipe to share with us for blueberry cobbler. Folks, it is going to be a great show. Make sure you do stay tuned, and we will be back with our first guest right after the Michigan Farm and Garden Fact of the Week.
It's time for the Michigan Farm and Garden Fact of the Week, brought to you by the Corn Marketing Program of Michigan.
Soybeans have more than a $1.5 billion economic impact, resulting in nearly 7,000 jobs within the state. They are grown on more than 10,000 farms in more than half of Michigan's counties. Soybeans are used in candles, shampoos, makeup, lotions, chain oils, ink, lubricants, spray foam insulation, crayons, teddy bears, vegetable oil, and soy milk, just to name a few uses. For more information, go to michigansoybean.org.
Touches your life every day. With over 600 items in the store that contain corn, it's America's renewable resource. There are amazing new products made from corn, like comforters, clothes, corn stoves, dinnerware, and of course, ethanol.
Corn, America's renewable resource, powering industry, feeding America, and fueling the future.
Thanks to Michigan's corn farmers, the future is bright for innovative products made from corn. To learn more about how corn touches your life, visit our website.
And welcome back. We are back with Keith Reinhold of the Michigan Soybean Promotion Committee. Keith, welcome back.
Hello, Jody. Glad to be here once again.
It's good to have you back. You guys have so much going bio-based. There's a lot to talk about.
Well, today, and I don't want to bore people with this because we had a show a few weeks back or two, but you know, I got to defend our state of Michigan somewhat here. The old theory of the last one out, turn out the lights. You know, we're viable, and you know, we both moved back here. I think we moved away and then we moved back. So obviously we enjoy the state of Michigan, but I think there's some real opportunities, and maybe not in the imminent future, but down the road for bio-based activities in the state of Michigan. With that said, we, the soybean industry, worked with our national organization, United Soybean Board, to put together a program that's going to be August the 6th and 7th, and public's not invited, but I think the purpose of this is to show how Michigan can advance and get involved in things that creates jobs and creates new opportunities. But on August 6th and 7th, we were involved with the national organization to host the only one held in this country this year, a program that we're referring to as the next generation of bio-based scientists. And academia has to be involved, obviously, but Ford Motor Company is very important. And I think we've got something that your viewing audience can look at if we have, it's just a seat. If we have that of Ford, there it is, I think we have it now. But the reason that's up there, and the reason we're working with Ford, is because back in the early 2000s, Ford made a commitment to work with bio-based products. The seat that your audience is looking at has about 20% composition of soybean products in it.
Wow.
So they were decided to go back and revisit that which Henry Ford did back in the 30s and 40s. So as such, Ford Motor Company, the Product and Innovation Center down in Dearborn, is hosting this event. We hope to get 150 to 175 people there that are mainly scientists. For instance, we have a couple people, professors from Michigan State, bringing some students. They're going to do poster sessions. So the agenda then is trying to entice not only students to get involved in bio-based activities and take courses, but to have educational institutions offer these courses. You know, your prior industry had something very similar, an opportunity, but we are concerned from the complete bio-based section that we will have trained people to come out and work in the bio-based sector. And bio-based, you know, I mean that which is annually renewable, biodegradable, environmentally friendly, domestic produced, all those good warm fuzzy things. So this event, which is going to be, again, hosted by Ford Motor Company, is an opportunity for university people to come in and their students. And they're going to give poster sessions. In the evening meal, we've got buses fueled by biodiesel, carting these people, taking these people out to a farm that in fact is still owned by Ford Land Management, was part of Henry Ford's 3,000-acre farm. The meal is going to be catered by the local 4-H club, nice fundraiser for them. And we are actually looking to have some farmers there that knew Henry Ford.
Oh, wow.
So they're a little aged, more so than I even, I think, but they're a little aged. But anyway, you know, maybe we need to have some conversation rather than me dominate this, but I want people to know the opportunities in the state of Michigan. And I think a key here is Senator Stabenow, who we know chairs the Senate Ag Committee. We've worked with the senator, in a number of programs whereby she's promoting bio-based products. She also is putting educational components on. And we worked with a number of things, and I hope that we'll have there. In fact, we have a program that we were involved with the senator in. It happened to be down in Alcera in Flint, but it was a bio-based because she's interested in bioeconomy. She's interested in creating jobs. I think maybe we have another slide whereby we're looking at soybeans. I mean, she has real interest in this. So Senator Stabenow is going to be the featured speaker. She's coming in to speak. USDA Secretary Vilsack is going to be there, be a featured speaker. And then we'll have papers and presentations by academia. With the goal is academia walks out of there and says, this is real. Let's create courses. Let's create master's and PhD programs of students that can graduate and come back and help the soybean industry. Yeah, we're pretty parochial. We want to come back and help us. So that's, you know, I'm doing all the talking here, but still I think it's important. I'm proud to be from Michigan. And I'm proud that we're hosting this, the only one in the state. And we're not done in Michigan. We're still out there.
Well, not at all. And I think to have those opportunities, you know, a lot of times we hear buzzwords, and I don't think kids or parents really realize when we talk bio, there's so many opportunities, there's so many career paths that they can take, but if you don't go and you don't really know what it is, it's just another one of those words. So to be able to get them out, have that experience, and get them excited about the future, like you said, I think it's huge, and I think it's huge for Michigan.
I think there is an opportunity, and I think students will grasp this opportunity because they're able to adapt and move faster than academia themselves. For them to create vocational tracks, for them to create educational components that in fact lead them down the bio-based opportunity might take a little longer. But this is the first stab at it. I think it's going to work.
Good. Well, Keith, thank you.
All right,
and
Jody.
good job.
Okay, well, thank
bring
you.
it back to Michigan, bring it back
All
for
right.
soybeans. Folks, when we look to the future, there certainly is a bright future in Michigan. We can look at all that we've been able to accomplish, looking at industries like agriculture and what we mean to our state. And if we can take that ag industry, grow that, and really embrace that bio industry, really we can say the sky's the limit. And if we can have those young folks engaged to come up with those next new markets and those new market opportunities, it certainly is an awesome time to be here in Michigan. Stay tuned. We'll be back right after this message.
The Cherry Marketing Institute wants you to know about tart cherries. Cherry's red color comes from powerful antioxidants. Available year-round, it's easy to incorporate cherries into your daily diet. Visit choosecherries.com.
Michigan's 1,000 apple growers take pride in producing delicious apples from one generation to the next. From the Great Lakes come great flavors. Look for locally grown Michigan apples.
Have Jody speak at your next agricultural event. Go to jodylive.com.
And welcome back. We are back with Bob Green of the Michigan Bean Commission. Bob, welcome back.
Always a pleasure, Jody.
It's good to have you here, and especially when we look at a commodity like dry beans, so really many different products and so many opportunities.
Oh, absolutely. I almost have to reiterate from Keith a little bit and talk about we're pretty doggone happy to be from Michigan. We've got a well-known product, a well-liked product, one that when it has Michigan in front of it, certainly carries a lot of weight in a lot of different areas, and that's Michigan dry beans. So we certainly are proud of that. I also noticed before we started, they talked a little bit about soybeans and how many places they were, and I guess I wrote down that I think last year in Michigan we had dry beans in 38 counties, which is, you know, remember, a much smaller crop than the soybeans, and we have about 12 to 1,400 growers on a yearly basis. So, you know, we're still in there plugging.
Well, and what a neat industry, and you know, especially when we look at this year, you know, we got to touch on the weather and what that means for markets and market opportunities, because it's been crazy.
Well, and for us, it's been, you know, the weather is a plus and a minus. I think of course, the interesting thing is we started out the year going to have about 220,000 acres. Due to some fluctuations in the market, we dropped down, and I think at last crop report we have 180,000, which is about what we had last year. At the same time, you talk about weather. Yeah, our weather here is certainly challenging our growers right now. A little more additional rain could really help us now, so we're kind of hoping to see that. At the same time, our main market, a market that currently we're shipping 167,000 tons, and in layman's terms, that's about 3.5 to 4 million bags of beans coming out of the United States going into Mexico. By far our largest market outside the U.S. They are still in very dire need of rain down there in their major bean growing areas, which is certainly causing them some problem, which is going to increase the opportunities for us here as we go through the year. At the same time, I just heard some numbers out of North Dakota, and I'm a little sad to say we've lost our status as the number one, at least the number one in acres right now on black beans. We've been the number one in black beans every year. Every year. You know, you can't find a year where we weren't number one, but this year, certainly in acres, we're going to be down a little bit, and it's North Dakota's going to be a little bit higher than us, but that's a good challenge. It's okay. We like challenges. We like what they create for us. So, but overall, we're still number two, and I think some of these other markets, I mentioned Mexico, but we also see Brazil, which is a large bean-eating area, having some difficulty with some of their production down there. So that could create some opportunities as well.
Well, and I think that's so important, because so many times, you know, we talk about the global economy, we talk about all these trade opportunities, but I don't think folks at home always realize what those markets are and how much you depend on those markets. I mean, that's a huge export to Mexico.
Yes, well, and again, for our black beans, you go into the Central Diabasta down there, and it says Michigan black beans, and in some cases specifically, some elevators in this state are mentioned, where the rest of it is, there's U.S. black beans, and then there's Michigan black beans. and then there's domestic black beans, meaning Mexican grown. So we end up with a pretty high level of demand down there, and they like what we have, and they like seeing it, and they have been known and have been willing to pay extra for product out of Michigan.
Well, and something too, if you live here, you totally take for granted because you don't realize we have good products, but you don't realize that folks in other countries are seeking it out, and it is the premier.
Well, yes, and as you know, one of the biggest factors about us is still that we export just about every other row of beans in this state, and again, Mexico is our place, and they do demand it. I have a question for you, though. I almost want to turn this around.
Oh, there you go.
Things have changed in the little bit in agriculture in the last little bit. We have a new commodity group, and I guess that you know, certainly we as commodity groups work together on a lot of different areas, and I think you've had an opportunity there. And I have a couple questions for you. I think number one is, how did well, first we ought to mention that it is wheat.
It is wheat. It is wheat. Yeah, I'm sitting in the cornfield now, but I moved to wheat.
Well, but see, I'm beans and I sit in the cornfield too, so
there
it's
you go,
okay.
that works.
But how does a group like that get started?
You know, it's really interesting when you look at those, and that is a good question. And there's many checkoffs like bean and soybeans that are across the state. And basically the growers come together and say, we want representation, we want to look out for our commodity, and they volunteer or vote in a self-assessment. So wheat is 0.5%. So when you're looking at the crop, you're looking at the price, 0.5% comes back to the wheat checkoff program. Of which I'm their executive director, so that's been a very fun change the last, actually since April. So being there, those funds come in, and we're looking at what needs to be done for the industry. And for wheat, we need to do research, we need to look at production, increasing yields, and there are some disease issues with the wheat. So that's where we really need to step up, but we couldn't do it if we didn't have a checkoff program to have the funds to make the research possible.
Well, you kind of answered the second question I had, and that was going to be, what's the board's focus? And like I think for a lot of us, it's going to be research in the several different facets, I presume, is agronomic and as well as sustainability, the use of different products. And
yeah, and we're in a unique market with wheat because we have good, strong producers here. We have good, strong markets. Kellogg's, Post, certainly when we look at that, the cereals, the crackers, all those kinds of things, the cookies, your breads, all of that use wheat. And we have opportunities to expand our market in state. We just need to make sure that we can take advantage of those and we can keep that wheat crop moving forward. So. Good questions. I appreciate it.
Anytime. Well, you know, if they're questions that I have, I hope that other people have them too.
Well, and I appreciate it, and I've appreciated the opportunity. It's tough after you've been someplace for a while to make a switch, but I am really enjoying learning more about wheat, and there's a great market. So thanks. We'll have you on more often. You can ask me.
We'd be happy to.
Folks, certainly when we look at agriculture here in our state, we know about the diversity. We've heard a little bit about dry beans and the importance there when we look at the export markets, and certainly a little bit about our wheat crop that is going and growing and starting their own organization and looking at doing research in the future. Folks, stay tuned. We'll be back right after this message.
This hog is head over hoof for meal made from U.S. soybeans. Now, one hog isn't that impressive, but suppose we add another, and another, and another. Before long, you've got billions of hungry customers around the world all clamoring for the same thing. Our soybeans. Learn more about the billion-dollar appetite of animal agriculture at BeyondTheElevator.com. Brought to you by America's soybean farmers and their checkoff.
And welcome back. We are back with Dan Hill of Montrose Orchards. Dan, welcome back.
Hi, Jody. Thanks for having me back on the program.
It's good to have you here. And, you know, I have to say, the way the season was this year, I thought I better get you in July instead of August.
We've got a darn good crop coming on blueberries, and you're right, everything's 2 to 3 weeks early, so thanks for calling ahead of time.
Well, you know, certainly we want to talk about, it's been tough. We know what our lawns look like. how are things when we look at the orchards? You know, how are the crops looking?
Boy, we've had a lot of damage across the state, and this is a new year where the media have actually picked up on this because some of those early freezes hit not just the northern part of the state, or the southern or the eastern, everywhere has taken some damage, especially on your perennial crops like apples and peaches and plums and pears. One thing that's come through that in a little better shape than we'd expected was blueberries. They have taken some damage around the state, but there's still a decent crop. It's not as big as it's bigger than last year's, but not as big as normal. But this is one thing we're thankful for, because if it was a tree fruit, peach, nectarine, or cherry, 5% of crop or less, it's been devastating on the family farms across Michigan.
Well, and I think that's important too, because as consumers, you know, if you're not going to have, I know the strawberry season seemed really, really short, and if you're not going to have all that harvest, there are other opportunities where we still have some good crops.
There are, and you know, not being say a buyer's market or seller's market, but more like a finder's market. If you can find it, pick it up. Don't wait. This is no time to go out price shopping or waiting until it's convenient for you to get something. We're in the midst of a nice warm spell right now, and so we're seeing stuff move quicker than normal. Blueberries normally start middle July, late July for Michigan. We started about the 1st of July this year, actually the last week of June in some parts of the state. And normally August is your big month for blueberries. I don't see that occurring this year. I see everything moving forward very quickly. So don't wait until your accustomed time to pick up your crops.
Well, and certainly too, when you look at, I like how you guys have the diversity, you know, with the kitchen there at the orchard, to be able to look at all the different items. And let's talk a little bit about what you have and kind of how you guys thought about some of this to make some of those crops last or stretch a little bit longer.
Certainly. Obviously, the processing a crop, whether you freeze it or you bake it or anything else, is a big thing. Wife's a chef, so we can do a lot of things. And this year we went from doing a lot of pies, which are a heavy fruit issue, to doing more cobblers, which will stretch your fruit across a little larger area. The wheat guys like us, of course, we use the flour.
That's good.
I'm sure you like that one. But it gives you a different mouthfeel, a little bit of crunch to it, or something a lot of your pies don't have. And it's one way to work with things. Blueberries are great. If you ever want to just freeze a crop, small fruits like blueberries, strawberries, raspberries, blackberries freeze so easily. Stick them on a cookie sheet tray, put them in the freezer. 30 minutes later, they're frozen solid. You pull them out, stick them in a Ziploc bag, and you can throw them right back in the freezer, and they're all individually quick frozen. Take them out as you need them. There's not an issue with having to thaw large quantities of anything. So they respond very well to freezing. Other things like apples, you might want to think about drying, so as heavier crops.
Well, and I think that's important because we do, and you mentioned it, especially a year like this when you got to get out, get it when you can, buy it when you find it. It's nice to know what to do, and it really is so easy to freeze, and they come out in wonderful condition.
Oh, excellent condition. Blueberries and a little bit on your cereal first thing in the morning. I have folks that regularly come to our store and ask for frozen blueberries or freeze their own, and they'll take out a small cup every day and do that kind of stuff. They're a great memory thing, a lot of antioxidants in these things, so good for you, good healthy stuff, and Michigan grows a lot of them yet.
Well, and I'm going to have you talk about your pie because it looks very, very cool.
We did something a little different. You've seen a strawberry pie with a strawberry glaze. This is a blueberry glaze. You can do the same thing. Pre-baked crust, fresh blueberries. You put the glaze on to hold them all in place, and you throw some fresh blueberries on top. And for the cooking challenge, this is very easy. Okay, this is not your recipe of the day, I know, but there's nothing similar. The strawberry pie is the same way. You want to do fresh strawberries on a pie, a little glaze on top, hold them together, a few fresh strawberries for show, and it's easy to make a very good fruit pie out of this. Now, this year it's going to be a little more expensive than last because of the crop size, and so for some folks that may be a limitation. But this is always an option, but then we can get into doing muffins or muffin tops or the dozen donuts I brought, but I think I left Bob in charge of security, and I think they disappeared. Or you do a cobbler.
Smiling pretty big, I think
wonder,
you did.
He's still got two in his hands, what he's got. Then you got cobblers, we can do things like this, and this is a great project. And then with your other summer fruits, like your melons, your watermelon, blueberries mix well with your other summer, your annual crops as well, or raspberries, if you can find raspberries, because they're a little tougher to find this year. Blackberries work good in that area too.
Well, Dan, thank you. We're going to have you back when we do the recipe. But folks, just a little bit of information, great tips, great idea. Grab it when you can find it, and certainly spread out that fruit that we have here in the state. Wonderful bounty, just not as much of it as we usually have. Stay tuned. We'll be back right after this message, and we're going to show you how to make this cobbler. Hi, I'm Jody. Corn is America's renewable resource. It can be used to fuel your vehicle and heat your home. Corn is grown in abundance in the state of Michigan, and it is a great alternative to foreign oil when it comes to heating your home. In fact, you can install a corn heater, furnace, or boiler in your own home. These work much the same as conventional furnaces, but they use Michigan-grown corn. By using corn to heat our homes, we're creating a more secure future for everyone. Select Michigan. It's good for you, the grower, and the economy. Which is about. And welcome back. We are back with Dan Hill. Dan, welcome back again.
Hi, Jody.
I'm going to have you walk us through, this looks wonderful, how to make a blueberry cobbler.
Well, cobblers are very easy. They're not much different than pies, but there's a different texture to them when you finish, and it's a little shorter baking time as well. Your prep time is very simple, and I know you've got the recipe you're going to put up on the screen here. It's a very simple list of ingredients, very easy to combine those ingredients and get that area put together. Once you get those first 5 ingredients in, just fresh blueberries. Go find some fresh product, whether it's blueberry or raspberry or peach or something like that, just fresh fruit on top, a little bit of streusel topping when you're done, and bake it for just a short time, half hour, whatever it says on there. And it comes out as a very nice thing. And this, to me, is a single serving item right here, but you can make this in a sheet pan. It can be as deep as you want it. It can be as shallow as you want it. And since there's not a mass quantity of fruit in the middle like a tall pie is, it cooks evenly and cooks faster than a lot of your pies. So if you ever had difficulty with the pie coming out a little raw on the bottom or something because you couldn't get all the way through, this tends to take care of that problem.
Well, and I like this because you have the diversity, especially in years like this, that you can go with the blueberries. If you can get some apples, you can do apples. You know, just depending on what you have and what's out there. And hopefully, as folks had rhubarb and things like that, they put it up and froze it, so you can really have it throughout the winter.
Very versatile. This takes a very minimal time to put together. It doesn't warm the kitchen up like a lot of oven does on a hot day during the summer here, but you can put any sort of fruit or vegetable like rhubarb into there. And they work well if you mix them together too, like a rhubarb strawberry, rhubarb raspberry, or something like that, or apple, blueberry, cherry kind of things. So it's easy to work together, and since you're working with small quantities of fruit, not depth of layers, it cooks evenly, so it doesn't matter what kind of fruit you got in there.
And I like that. If it doesn't always work out, I like the things that I know are given and easy. Folks, if you want to try this recipe, as always, you can visit us online at MichiganFarmandGarden.com or write to Michigan Farm and Garden Recipes, P.O. Box 461, Williamston, Michigan 48895. And if you just want one recipe, just send me a self-addressed stamped envelope. I will get it back out to you. But also get out there, and I would say visit those orchards, visit those farm markets, especially with the short season. We got to get out there now.
Call early, call often to find out what's available, and when it is, pick it up because it won't be there very long.
Well, and especially too, I like that you brought a couple other options, because in years like this, if we do have shorter crops, we still have those jams, those jellies, those syrups, so many things we can do.
Standard issue with jams and jellies, just like we do with freezing or drying, this is still available. As I said, there's not as long a crop this year, so you don't want to take a chance if you're waiting for something, or if you have this inbuilt time thing that says, I know when I'm going to get my stuff, ignore that. Call 3 weeks ahead of time and see how everything's coming along.
Well, and certainly when we're looking, we talk a little bit about planning ahead. When we look at a tough crop year, because this year was tough, we're looking at tree fruits and things like that. We can expect them to come back for next year?
Oh, next year, yeah, not an issue at all, because the trees, of course, didn't die, just simply this year's crop on it did. And so what normally when you see a very low crop on here, that usually means a bigger crop projected for the next year. Okay, and so we may see the reverse of things. Obviously, weather plays a big deal in it, but just because they're gone one year doesn't mean you can't see it again next year. And we'll probably see more fruits and vegetables from other states coming into Michigan. So if you got a buy local mentality, which is really good, you may have to expand your locality a little bit to include Ohio, Pennsylvania, Indiana, or the Eastern Coast or stuff like that as well. So just don't give up on fruit just because it's not here. Okay, it's still good and healthy for you, but just expand it to not just the Midwestern states, but all across the U.S.
Our other neighbors.
Yes.
So. Well, Dan, thank you so much. I appreciate it. Folks, have a great week. Hopefully you've learned some things. Get out there, take advantage of what we have here in Michigan. Look at those other states, eat those fruits and veggies, and we will see you back here next weekend. Bye-bye.